a great student working hard all year in the back, another one of our sort of overachievers. Are you an overachiever?
No.
I think so. These are Charlene's words. She says, I would first like to thank God for holding my hand throughout the process of writing this thesis, my parents for always supporting me through and through, Miss Viola, who has guided me in the process of writing my thesis, and the friends who have cheered me on. I would also like to thank Miss Denise and Mr. JC for taking the time to be my panelists. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Wade for guiding me through every step of the senior thesis and making the overall process feel a lot easier by playing games with us on Fridays, providing tea and snacks like his famous apple pie, and always encouraging us and reminding us that we can do it. Yes, we can. Her title is Fake It Till You Make It, Why Manipulative Marketing Must End. Give me a second to set up the timer, and I will tell you when you can start. All right, you can start when ready.
Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? As a tenacious marketer, the serpent negated the risk of the product by saying, You will not surely die. Knowing the vulnerability of human pride, he continued to claim the benefit that Eve would be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and a delight to the eyes, she took of its fruit and ate. And the serpent grinned deviously as he successfully hit the bullseye. What began as a serpent's sly question in the Garden of Eden has grown exponentially in our world and has continued to occur in the marketing campaigns we view, which uses lies and hides the truth in order to drive purchase decisions. How many of us often click, buy now, or add to cart, just like how Eve was deceived and was tempted to pick the fruit which appeared pleasing to her eyes? At what point does persuasion cross the line and become manipulation? The marketplace has evolved to become a corrupt place right under our noses. From marketing products ethically, brands have begun to use manipulative marketing for their own benefits. Manipulative marketing involves the intention of the marketer to influence people, with the goal of making their choices appear limited by using deception, to undermine people's knowledge and understanding of a situation, violating the principle of informed consent, or by exploiting people's cognitive emotional vulnerabilities. According to research, 83.9% of respondents have faced a negative experience while making a purchase due to manipulative marketing. Manipulative marketing is also increasingly facilitated by this digital era, which helps it thrive in the marketplace. How many of us have read, only one left in stock when shopping online, but after a while, you check back and see that the quantity of the product did not actually change? Let me introduce you to false urgency, a common manipulative marketing tactic with low stock or high demand claims and a limited time offer, with a countdown showing when the offer will end, even though the discount resumes after the written time limit. This often causes customers to make purchase decisions they would not have made in absence of the false urgency. Deceptive advertising is another tactic, which involves the distortion or exaggeration of descriptions and pictures on a product's features in order to gain the consumer's attention. Although many countries already have established government laws and regulations for consumer protection, its enforcements aren't always as excellent as how it is on paper. With that, manipulative marketing should not be normalized for 3 reasons. It violates consumer rights, is counterproductive for the marketplace, and is morally and spiritually corrupt. First, manipulative marketing violates consumer rights and degrades their quality of life. Article 7B of Indonesia's Law on Consumer Protection and Rights states that consumers are entitled to obtain information that is true regarding the condition of the product or service and proper education on its usage. By normalizing manipulative marketing, consumers would have their rights to truthful information and proper education violated. Case in point, Frisian Flag Susu Kental Manis, or SKM, which manipulated thousands of Indonesian viewers of their advertisement into believing that SKM was a healthy milk product full of proteins and nutrients, when it was merely sugar and cream. Badan Pengawas Obat dan Makanan investigated SKM and labeled their advertisement to be misleading. Because Frisian Flag failed to meet the rights of consumers, they had to remove the word milk from their product and add labels saying that SKM shouldn't act as a substitute for breast milk or be the only source of nutrition. In addition to this, their ad was banned from airing during the broadcasting hour of children programs. Consumers' fundamental rights to safety would also be violated. This often occurs when companies fail to inform the truth and instead choose to exaggerate features, withhold information, omit risks, or conceal defects. Take Natural American Spirit as an example. Their cigarettes were marketed to be additive-free, organic, natural, and successfully manipulated 64% of consumers to believing that their cigarettes were a safer alternative. In this example, the manipulative marketing of businesses caused consumers to suffer the harm. In turn, the normalization of manipulative marketing would bring damage to consumers' quality of life in the long run. For example, Volkswagen was infamous for their so-called eco-friendly marketing campaigns, promoting their vehicles with low emissions. In 2015, Volkswagen was exposed for deceiving emission tests because their vehicles emitted 40 times more nitrogen oxide than the amount of emission actually allowed in the US. The group chief executive mentioned that the company had truly lost trust of the public and of their consumers. Referring back to the SKM scandal and the escalation of its consequences, numerous Indonesian families used SKM believing it was an affordable option capable of supplying infants with nutrients, unaware that the product was incompetent in replacing breast milk. In doing so, many of the young Indonesian children who did consume the product on a regular basis grew up lacking the nutrients needed to properly develop cognitive function of the brain and of physical growth. The second reason why manipulative marketing should not be normalized is because it would be counterproductive for the marketplace, as it would threaten a firm's brand integrity and ruin its customer loyalty. Brand integrity or credibility is established if a brand is able to consistently deliver what they promise. Although manipulative marketing could bring short-term gain, in the long run, it would backfire, as the consumer's perception of the brand's credibility would be at risk. For instance, in 2024, Qantas, Australia's largest airlines, suffered major reputational damage and had to pay the enormous fine of $100 million because they had advertised for flight tickets that were already canceled and chose to delay notifying ticket holders. Even though Qantas admitted to engaging in deceptive conduct to mislead the public, the 82,000 flights that failed to depart caused Qantas's brand integrity to be breached and their customer loyalty to be stained. A ruined brand integrity and plummeting customer loyalty would then damage the business as a whole. The process of rising back up to overcome consumer skepticism and creating a new perception of the brand will certainly be arduous, not to mention costly. In the previous case, Qantas suffered a sharp 28% decline in their net profit. In another case, Ajinomoto's image was tarnished when they were exposed for hiding the truth about their seasoning product because they had changed the production process by using porcine elements to cheapen the cost of production. This grew into a large issue as the majority of Ajinomoto's Indonesian consumers were Muslims with strict dietary rules to abide by. Ajinomoto suffered much loss as they had to recall distribution of up to 3,000 tons of products and experienced negative word of mouth. The tons of products could be recalled, and Ajinomoto could apologize 1,000,000 times, but no amount of apologies or recalled products could make amends for the trust loss. The manipulative marketing of one brand could push the industry backwards. Going back to Volkswagen's emission scandal, they were fined $33 billion. Volkswagen and Porsche showed 38% and 36% decline in stock returns. But they weren't the only ones to fall, as evidence suggests that they brought the entire German automotive industry down with them, as a reputational spillover like a growing ripple effect. Competitors like BMW and Mercedes-Benz were affected as consumers grew to become skeptical of all German diesel brands. As a result, even honest competitors had to counter this collective mistrust and rebuild the trust of consumers. Brands and their competitors might make efforts to engage in price competition, where they attempt to overcome low demand by lowering prices. Nevertheless, this would lead to decreasing the profit margin across the industry. The third reason why manipulative marketing should not be normalized is because it is morally and spiritually corrupt. Manipulative marketing exploits consumers' vulnerabilities. Businesses often manipulate cognitive biases and the emotions of consumers to create an artificial sense of urgency, therefore triggering impulsivity and distorting judgment to lead into flawed purchase decisions. For example, pressuring consumers into FOMO or fear of missing out through scarcity of their products by presenting fake countdown timers for limited time offers. Businesses often prey on the insecurities and fears of consumers, like appearances, aging, or social groups. In this way, they trigger their target market to feel shame and perceive a product or service to be the only necessary solution. Manipulative marketing also unethically bypasses consumers' rationality. Simply put, it causes consumers to act against their own long-term interests and well-being. With manipulative marketing in the picture, consumers aren't able to make fully informed and rational purchase decisions, as businesses cut and bypass this right by steering and softly coercing consumers. Imagine a situation in which you are pushed by a supermarket worker towards specific aisles, and the supermarket worker dictates you on what to put in your shopping cart. Obviously, no one would like to shop this way in real life, but this is often the online shopping experience in our digital age. It must be acknowledged that online transactions often involve deliberate suppression of information in decision-making. Technology is, after all, never neutral. Depending on how it is used, it can preserve, enhance, or diminish autonomy. Ultimately, the normalization of manipulative marketing encourages a detrimental worldview in the marketplace. Normalizing these schemes promotes a culture of materialism rooted in all the wrong values, as brands prioritize earning sales even at the expense of their own customers. Competitors would then be pressured to use equally manipulative tactics to be able to compete stronger in the industry. This is demonstrated by the normalization of deviance, where safety standards are gradually reduced to a new normal. And because nothing major goes entirely wrong in the short term, this leads to encouraging the behaviors associated with bypassing safety checklists and ignoring alarms. Brands often resort to manipulative marketing because they believe in the illusion that beautifully packaged lies would help them achieve higher sales. But there is truly no end in chasing after material desires of the flesh, like profit or sales, as human nature will always crave for more. While we know and believe that men should not live by bread alone, the idea of manipulative marketing in itself carries distortive values such as deceit, greediness, and promotes a harmful worldview, while the book of Proverbs expresses how false balances are an abomination to the Lord, but he delights in a just weight. Paul's letter to the Romans and the Gospel of John further shows how the scripture rejects Christians' pursuit of a materialistic life, and how we ought to normalize what is good, what is honorable, not what the world normalizes, because we are not of this world, nor were we created in the image of this world. Now, some might argue that manipulative marketing is a completely acceptable strategy, since the goal of marketing is to achieve higher sales, and manipulative marketing achieves that exact purpose. They also claim that manipulative marketing would be an easy way up for new businesses to be able to compete against other bigger companies in the industry, arguing that they would only use manipulative marketing in the beginning to create attention, to create awareness, lure people's attention, and that they would stop after the brand gains potential customers who could push sales. Even if some customers might detect the lies within the product, negative publicity is still publicity. Although it is true that manipulative marketing could push sales within the short run, it would undoubtedly become counterproductive and act as a boomerang. Even only as a booster start, manipulative marketing should not be justified, since the flesh is always greedy. Let me take you to a room called the mesolimbic system, the reward system in our brain. In this room, the name of the game is what gets rewarded, gets repeated. When we get something we want, our brain releases dopamine, which is often known as the feel-good neurotransmitter, because it does just that. It makes us feel good. Once businesses start to use these sly tactics, the behavior of deceived consumers would reinforce that these strategies do work to increase profits, tempting the companies to use these schemes over and over again. Yes, manipulative marketing would be an easy method for new brands to attract attention at the beginning. But the true goal of a brand isn't just to gain awareness in the beginning, it's to survive in the industry. And this goal cannot be achieved through deceiving customers. Customers who have been deceived by businesses, negative publicity, although it is still publicity, is never going to bring a business anywhere good far, as a negative perception of the brand would ruin a business inside out. Because the marketplace is characterized to be competitive, some also argue that manipulative marketing is necessary to survive, as small lies would aid the business in growing. Similar to the Trojan horse that took the shape of an excellent gift from the outside but turned out to hide warriors on the inside, manipulative marketing usually emerges with intent that seems excellent on the surface. But the truth will always prevail. Customers who have been deceived by companies would experience dissatisfaction, disappointment, and even remorse from purchasing a product packaged with lies. Furthermore, they would spread negative word of mouth about the brand or product, which would produce no good fruit for the company. It would tarnish the image of the company as well as reduce sales. Word of mouth is very powerful in marketing because when customers gain better services, this influences purchasing decisions, which goes a long way to save the company money they could have spent in advertising or product awareness. Throughout this thesis, we have explored reasons why manipulative marketing must stop, starting with cases that violated consumer rights and damaged their quality of life, like SKM and Volkswagen's emission scandal. We moved on to consider the economic effects of manipulative marketing. Instead of enhancing profit and growth in the long run, manipulative marketing would become counterproductive. Finally, we analyzed how corrupt manipulative marketing has become as it ultimately promotes a detrimental worldview within the marketplace. We know that manipulation can be traced back to the cunning serpent in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, it is no surprise that this deceit has taken root in our sinful world, conquering the marketplace to be a place of dishonesty. Manipulative marketing has not only been disregarded to simply be a clever marketing strategy or even a necessity to survive in the industry. It has been normalized so much that we have blindly accepted that marketing has always been this way and that there is nothing wrong with it. If we continue to tolerate manipulative marketing, we will continue to shop within a marketplace that normalizes lies. Hence, will we just sit here and do nothing while lies become the standard we live by? Are we to just spectate the scene where businesses act as puppet masters and play with our logic, our emotions, and our rights? No, we absolutely must break the cycle. First, we must use our voice. With social media, we are able to share reviews or even report dishonest businesses when necessary. By speaking up, we help hold those in the marketplace accountable. Second, we must also reduce exposure to unjust businesses or corrupt businesses, because being constantly surrounded by manipulative marketing would cause us to normalize it. The last step to demand a better future for the marketplace is by supporting brands who respect you and your rights as consumers, brands who value you. Because the true purpose of a business is to serve its customers and sell value, not lies. We have the power to hold businesses accountable, to uphold integrity. We have the ability to step up, to become game changers in the marketplace, to the future of a brighter marketplace. Thank you.
Really good job, Charleen. Our panelists today are Mr. JC and Ms. Denise. Let's start with Mr. JC.
Hi, Charleen.
Hi, Mr.
Thank you so much for presenting to us this topic. I enjoyed really yesterday reading your text and everything that you mentioned. Almost everything I agreed, of course. There are some problems with some punctuations, which is a minor thing.
Hi, Mr.
I'm a grammar fascist in this case sometimes. But I would like to ask you first about, just the easy question, why do you think you chose this topic? What made you chose this topic?
Thank you for the question, Mr. JC. I think what motivated me most to choose this topic is because I have seen in our digital age how marketing has been a part of our daily lives. We see it on our phones, we see it on the screen, we see it on TVs. And oftentimes, we don't even realize that the marketing that these businesses set up are actually subtly manipulating us. And I see me, myself, and many friends that have fallen and become victims to manipulative marketing. And so I think through this thesis, I've enjoyed researching about marketing and finding, oh, this practice is fine, this practice is manipulative. And I think I would like to take a stand through this thesis.
So I can say that this research somehow is based on the testimony of a victim.
Yes, many
I
victims.
think I'm a victim. I'm one of them also.
Yes,
So don't
I think
worry.
all of
You're not
us.
alone. All of us. Yeah, but again, I'd like to ask a little bit more conceptual, but I hope that you can answer this. How do you define truth actually? Because you talk about truth from the beginning, and also you close that with the deception of Adam and Eve by the devil in the form of the serpent. Yeah. How do you define truth?
Thank you for the question, Mr. JC. That's a very good question since I think truth is a very vital concept in my thesis. I think truth, it should align with the character of Christ, meaning that it doesn't tell lies and it is loving enough to care for people and make people aware. And truth doesn't force us or deceive us. I think that truth ultimately guides us.
Can I say that it somehow, if you tell truth, then it means that it represents the reality as reality?
The
Can I say
truth-
that?
Yes,
Okay.
represents the reality.
So, what do you think about some people who think that partial truth is fine? We don't have to expose the whole truth. It's not going to be beneficial, pragmatically beneficial for people anyway, either in a context or in the perspective of the consumers or the perspective of the producers. What do you think about that? If, let's say, partial truth is fine insofar as we can get what we want, our interest is acquired anyway.
That's a very good question, Mr. JC. Thank you for the question. While researching this thesis, I have found many manipulative marketing strategies that only tell parts of the truth or parts of the story while leaving out, conveniently leaving out parts of the story to make sure that consumers buy the products. And I think that people who only tell half-truths, they're not caring for the consumers, and ultimately this would damage the business in the long run. Because just because telling half of the truth would be convenient for you doesn't make it right. It doesn't justify that you're deceiving people.
In the context that the overall truth should be revealed, yeah.
Yes.
I really love the way that how you mention it. Maybe if I use another term, it's like you are pro sustainable business rather than, okay, you have a big profit now, but you don't know what will happen in next year,
Yes.
like that, yeah. Oh, yeah, sustainable, yeah. You mentioned also about certain, maybe, I don't know how you say this, is it manipulative or at least it's strategic way of some sellers or producers there or marketers there. They sometimes they drive you, like you are a consumer, you go to a mall, maybe you can go, let's say IKEA, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, they drive you to go to this aisle and there and there and there until you arrive at the counter, the cashier, and there are some ice cream there and everything. It seems that you don't have any other way, you don't have any freedom there, that it's driven. What do you think about that? I know in some malls also apply that. If I'm not mistaken, the mall near my house is Ubertos, yeah? Ujung Barung Town Square, yeah? Okay. What do you think about that? Is it ethical?
Thank you for the question, Mr. JC. I'm aware of the strategies IKEA use. When we walk into IKEA, there are arrows and we have to go through the entire building. Even though we might only need one or two things, we will pass by other things and think, oh, maybe we need to buy this as well. And even at the cashier, we're not done because we have ice creams and snacks and we have everything else near the cashier. I would argue that, is this manipulation? No. But is it subtly unethical? Yes. Although there are shortcuts in Mr. JC, in IKEA, did you know there are shortcuts? I think most of the consumers aren't aware that they can just cut through to the area that they need, which makes it unethical because they aren't fully informed when they walk through IKEA.
Because I got trapped also. There was a time that I bought something that I didn't need beforehand. So I bought that, and then when I went out of IKEA, I was like, why did I buy this? All right, I would use it anyway. So
That's
what I
relatable,
said.
Mister.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Really enjoy this. Well, you talk about marketing in terms of economics or economy in general. Do you think that this, all of the insights that you have mentioned, that you have proposed to us, you have exposed to us here, can somehow be extended also to other aspects of life, other, for example, other areas of life, for example, education, politics, or let's say, what else? On religion, maybe. About marketing religion, for example, by the prosperity gospel, maybe you have been familiar with that, with prosperity gospel, you come here and you will get blessing, which is, in a way, it seems manipulative, but again, I need to know your response about it. Or maybe, I don't know, in education, sometimes certain, do you take Mr. Meno sociology?
Yes, I do, Mister.
You studied about sociology of education, right?
Yes.
And there was like a section there talking about grade inflation, like curving grades too much, such that the grades average is very high. The reputation of the school is better, but in the long run, it is damaging actually, because especially the graduates of the school or universities will not compete well, will not be competent enough in the workplace. Not to mention again about politics. Just 2 years ago, we had a lot of really manipulative way, especially to young people by means of TikTok. What do you think about, do you think that somehow this can be applied to those areas? I need to hear your response about it.
That's a very good question. Thank you, Mister. As I said before, marketing has been really embedded in our daily lives as we see it everywhere. So obviously, this would connect to other topics, as you mentioned, Mister, in politics, in religion, and social media. I feel like even though it's not marketing as in businesses promoting their products, the principles of persuading people to do something you want, or to persuade people, is a part of most fields. Like even in Thesis, this is the art of persuasion. But what makes it manipulative is when they exploit the vulnerabilities, or when they hide parts of the information, or even lie to people's faces. So although it can go to other fields, it doesn't necessarily mean that every field is like manipulative.
Yeah, and the history of manipulative marketing is as old as the history of rhetoric itself. Yeah, I think maybe you learned about that, the sophists in a time of the ancient Athens back then. How they were countered so much by Plato and Socrates, for example. They were manipulative in their politics and everything. So I remember, I have less than 1 minute, but I remember that you gave me one syllogism a few years ago. So I would like to give you a syllogism right now, based on your thesis argument. Syllogism number 1, all things violating consumers' right must end. Manipulative marketing is the one that violates consumers' rights. Therefore, manipulative marketing must end.
Yes, I agree with sir.
AAA1, bullseye syllogism. Syllogism 2, all that is counterproductive for marketplace should end. Manipulative marketing is a thing that is counterproductive for marketplace. Therefore, certainly manipulative marketing should end. Syllogism 3, the last one, all that is morally corrupt must end. Manipulative marketing is a thing that morally corrupt. Therefore, manipulative marketing must end. How about that? Do you think that sounds okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for creating syllogisms for each proof. I appreciate it.
Because you gave me syllogism back then, right? With a piece of chocolate back then. You remember that?
I remember, sir.
It was so heartening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. JC.
Really proud of you.
Okay, let's move to Miss Denise.
I'm not going to give you syllogisms for your thesis. I am so glad Mr. JC did that for us. That was fantastic. I did want to ask you, though, some more in-depth questions about your topic. I think my first question, oh, by the way, well done.
Thank you, Miss.
Yeah, you're welcome. Your presentation was fantastic. You were so clear. Your pronunciation was clear. I can tell you really owned your topic. Like, you know it and you're passionate about it, and I really appreciate that. So well done.
Thank you, Miss.
And I also loved that you opened and you concluded with the story of Satan in the garden.
Yes.
Right, with Adam and Eve. Let's face it, who's the best manipulative marketer ever?
The serpent.
The serpent. Correct. And so I think that's actually the root of my question that I want to ask you. Who is your target audience for this topic? Are you talking to everybody out in the entire world? Are you speaking specifically to Christian business owners? Who are you trying to convince most?
Thank you for the question, Miss. That's a very important question. I think that for this thesis, my target market is ultimately the people who own businesses and the consumers, because I think both of them play a part in this issue, because business owners, they need to have integrity in how they do their business, but consumers also have the responsibility to be aware.
I'm glad that you said that. I didn't see that in your thesis. You just said it in your answer, but I felt like that was the piece that was lacking in your thesis and even in your presentation. You were listing, it seemed to me that your argument was the burden was primarily placed on the
Businesses.
business owner,
Okay.
right? And I wanted to counter that with, but doesn't the consumer have an equal responsibility in discerning what is true and what is not true, just
Yes.
like Adam and Eve did? Because Satan is going to be true to his nature. He's a liar. He's the father of lies. He can do nothing else but lie. And so I would say that in the world today, can we really eliminate manipulative marketing if we don't live in the new heaven and the new earth? Will it really be removed? And how do we handle that reality instead?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Ms. Denise. I'm sorry I didn't incorporate it in my speech and in the thesis, but if I could add to the previous question, although both businesses and consumers hold responsibilities and contribute to this issue, I feel like businesses really play a part in manipulative marketing because they are the one setting the context in which the consumers make the decisions.
Okay.
So even no matter how educated, how aware, how cautious a consumer is, if the context is being manipulated, it would be really difficult for them to avoid manipulative marketing. And to answer your next question, can manipulative marketing be eliminated in this world? Unfortunately, we still live in a sinful and corrupted world, and eliminating manipulative marketing 100% would be too idealistic. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take a stand and not normalize it. I feel like we still have to contribute, and we need to tell people to be aware of this and to stop normalizing it.
Okay, that's a fantastic response. And so my question that follows that is, what does it mean to normalize manipulative marketing? I was struggling to understand that a little bit because in your proofs that you gave fantastic examples of companies that violated ethics maybe and transparency.
Yes.
And they were participating in these manipulative marketing techniques, but they were actually found out.
right.
They were caught. And so is it really being normalized or is it being revealed? So help me understand what you mean by normalization.
Thank you for the question, Miss. What I mean by normalizing is because manipulation, the nature of manipulation is that it's not straightforward, it's not in your face. Like, for example, the serpent, he didn't outwardly tell Eve to disobey God, just eat the fruit. I mean, he said to not do it, but just do it anyway. He twisted the truth, he distorted it. He asked Eve and planted doubts in her. Did God really say you shouldn't eat it? I don't think that you'll die if you eat it. In the same way, manipulative marketing operates in this sort of gray area that oftentimes we don't realize that we are being manipulated. Hence, we don't take a stand, we don't normalize it. For the proofs, I used examples in which they were exposed, because if they weren't exposed, then I wouldn't be able to use them. But I feel like there are so many manipulative marketing strategies that go unnoticed
I see.
and unhanded, like in platforms like Shopee or
Yeah.
Tokped. I feel like there are so many businesses who put down midnight sale, or like 5 other shoppers are also looking at this right now. But then when you refresh, it's the same exact thing. They're
Right.
doing that to manipulate you on purpose.
I will totally give you an amen to that. Every time we go into Toko Sechi Booty, I say to Mr. Strickland, "Oh, look, it's a limited offer." And he says to me every time, "It's always a limited offer. It will be here next year as a limited offer." That furniture store, especially, the furniture
The
store on top.
furniture,
He's
not the
talking, no,
supermarket.
not about the other areas of Toko Sechi Booty. It's the mattresses. Every time I try to get him, I want to buy a mattress.
Right.
And so I try to tell him, "Oh, look, it's a 70% off." He's like, "It's always 70% off." So he always says, wait. So no, I agree with what you're saying. There's this idea, and I loved how you highlighted it, that it's called false urgency.
Yes.
Where you create a scenario that the consumer feels there is pressure to make a decision without them thinking through things fully, where that becomes a more reactionary decision
That's true.
without a fully processed decision. And so if you don't have a Mr. Wade to balance you, it's really hard to say no. So well done.
you.
Okay, so another question I have is, since we're living in a fallen world, we know that
Yes.
there's going to be people who will always look for, how do we create the best profit and the best use of our product, and how do we sell the most of it regardless of the consequences? Those people will always exist. But so if we set those people aside, and let's say we've got a responsible business owner
Okay.
and a responsible consumer, where is that thin line between persuasion and between manipulation, or between wise business practices and transparency and something that is emotionally manipulative? Because I'm thinking, if you have, let's say, a new product that you want to offer, I'm a brand new business owner, I'm starting to enter this market, I need some way to say, here's my niche, here's my specialization. So I'm going to naturally say, what are the strengths of my product? And I want to highlight the strengths, and I want to minimize the weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Is that manipulation, or is that just being a wise steward and a wise manager?
Thank you for the question, Miss. While writing this thesis, I have often pondered and asked Miss Viola, my advisor, what is the line between persuasion and actual marketing? When does it become manipulation?
Yeah.
I think if you were a business owner and you're confused about this line, ultimately what makes it manipulative or not is how you execute your marketing, how you promote your products. Because there are many companies who I know are able to market truthfully without exaggerating features or conveniently leaving out the defects or risk, but they are able to get consumers because they believe in the quality of their product. They believe in the craftsmanship and the value of it. So ultimately, what makes it manipulative is how you choose to market it to your target audience.
I see. So maybe it's to what end you're trying to market and the purpose that you're trying to
the
accomplish.
intent.
I like that. That's a good answer. Okay, so I think I have one more quick question. Since you were talking about there are laws in place,
Yes.
and there are companies that have been, found
Exposed.
out and exposed.
Yes.
So I think you're kind of promoting, it seemed like in your conclusion, like, what then? What now? What should we
Yes,
do?
what
How
now?
should we now
What's the next
live, right? Okay. Go out and report it when you see it, and somehow try to highlight it. Is that right? If you're the consumer.
Yes.
If you're the business owner, is there something that we should do within the legal system, or is there what other way can we try to incentivize people to not participate in manipulative marketing? How do you think we can incentivize that?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Miss. I think that because of how common it is, it's often really hard to stop manipulative marketing, especially from the consumer's perspective, as we can only share reviews or report dishonest businesses from the government. I believe that the laws and regulations are already in place, but the enforcements are oftentimes weak. Like in the Susukan Tamanis example,
Yeah,
in my
exactly.
proof one, they were told to change the labels and they had lots of prohibitions, but they didn't have to pay an enormous fine like Qantas or Volkswagen.
Right.
So I think that there needs to be stricter enforcements from the government. And although consumers seem to have less power by only sharing reviews or reporting, I think that with social media, we are able to really change the marketplace if we act collectively as a society. If it's only one person sharing reviews or reporting dishonest businesses, it's not going to get very far, especially
Right.
compared to businesses with more power. But if everyone does it collectively, since everyone is online on social media, we all have an online presence there. We're gonna be aware, like, oh, this brand did manipulative marketing. And obviously, when we know that a brand is manipulative, we would avoid supporting them and buying
Yeah.
their products.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, we
you,
are
Liz.
out of time. You've done a great job, Charleen. All right. Next, what we'll do is we're going to meet friends and family panelists and advisor up here for photos. And then we're going to start with Jan.